Hi everyone, welcome to ELI, the place where you get your daily dose of inspiration for entrepreneurship. And today we have with us Mr. Mangesh Pandit Rao, the co-founder of Soptimize. Hi Mangesh, welcome to ELI.
Hi, Priya. Thanks for having me here.
Mangesh, I would request you to introduce yourself to our audience.
Absolutely. So my name is Mangesh Pandit Rao. I'm the co-founder, CEO at Shoptimize. We're based out of Pune, and this is my second venture. So I've been an entrepreneur now for about 13 years through the two ventures that I've been working on. So I'm again an engineer by training, started as a programmer, spent most about 7 years in the US studying and working at different consulting firms before coming back to India and starting my first company. And now this is my second. Um, so that's a little bit about me. A little bit about Shoptimize. What we're doing here is we are helping brands grow their D2C channel, where they're selling directly to customers through their website. So we've been doing this now for about 8 years in India, and we've seen a lot of changes. And the last 6 months, 1 year, has really accelerated this space significantly. And until then, we were growing at a slow tick, but now, growth has really picked up for us. So what we do again, from a product standpoint, we have two offerings. One is the e-commerce platform where brands can set up their websites, connections to different ecosystem players like payment, logistics, loyalty, even connections to their backend systems like inventory and all of that, which is running the operations. And the second product is the growth offering, or the Shoptimize growth platform, which sits on top of your online store and derives insights and recommendations for growth based on data sources, including your website, Amazon, and several others. So these are the two offerings, and a combination of these is helping brands grow um, in the D2C space, and that's what we do.
Sounds interesting, Mangesh. Can you share some of the statistics on what kind of reach and impact you have been making on ground level?
Absolutely. So brands that we've been, our customers are broadly divided into two categories. One is large offline players, people who have been selling in the offline world and have got some traction on marketplaces like Amazon, Flipkart, Big Basket, etc. But their own brand website is a negligible source of revenue when we start working with them, right? So that's one category of customers. The second category of customers are new age D2C brands that are selling online first and then eventually expanding to offline. So if you talk about statistics, we look at these two different groups of customers. Both of these groups have seen over 2x to 3x growth in monthly revenue from their website over the last 9 to 12 months. And that's kind of been the growth that this sector is seeing. In terms of number of customers, that hasn't changed a lot because a lot of people that we were working with itself took most of our attention, but now we are actively looking to expand our customer base as well. We work with about 100 odd brands today, and we hope to get to about 250 brands within the next 1 year.
Okay. Now, I would love to hear your story. Like, how did you come up with this idea, and what are the different events that happened, which made you an entrepreneur and made you start Soptimize?
Okay. So this is my second venture, as I mentioned. So I think I can break that down into two different stories: the starting of the entrepreneurship journey, and then what motivated me to do Optimize, right? So, so I was in the US and looking to move back to India, and I tried several different ways of doing that. So one was with the company I worked. They had an office in India in Hyderabad, and I looked to move there. But they were acquired, while my moving process was going on, and the focus was to no longer move, consultants to India. They wanted us to remain in the US. Then, I also moved to another company and set up their operations in Chicago. And the goal was to set it up in India as well. But even that, didn't materialize. So finally, I decided to come back on my own, without a job in hand, and figure out the what it takes to actually, work in India. I always wanted to build a company in the long run, but I think it happened a lot sooner because I couldn't find the right job that let me stay in India and do value added work in the space that I was in. So while I was interviewing, me and one of my school classmates, we set up the first company. We got our first customer, the first check from our first customer, and by then that's when I got my job offer from a large consulting firm in India. And then I had to make a decision whether I want to, go back to working in a job or give entrepreneurship a shot. And I decided to give myself 6 months to see if I can actually build a company out of this. And it's been 13 years now. So that's how the journey started. When it comes to Shoptimize, everything I'd done up to Shoptimize was in the enterprise software space or software for business space. And almost always software was a cost center, right? It was where people would spend money to either manage inventory or would spend money to view business insights and things like that, right? Always a cost center. But with e-commerce, for the first time, software could be a profit center, could drive growth, could drive brands to be significantly, or companies to be significantly larger than what they were. So it's not no longer a cost center. And that's what kind of excited me about e-commerce. And the second piece that I had seen is also the growth of SaaS, software as a service, where companies don't need to install software, own servers, worry about connectivity. They can be up and running, quickly, and give a very high level experience to their end customers. So these two basic ideas came together in starting Shoptimize, that build software that can actually grow the company and build it in a way that is pay as you go for the brands. And that's how the journey started for us.
Okay. Would be very interested to know how did you you know evolve as a venture, what was your initial thought process, and if any pivots you did in the midway, and
Yeah.
where you kind of made the breakthrough uh, as a business.
Correct, correct. So, yeah, if you've been around for 8 years like we have, you've definitely had a few turns in the journey, right? So we started off initially working with a lot of SMEs, and we at that point wanted to be the Shopify of India, where we would build a platform and brands could come and set up their websites. That did well in the beginning. I mean, we were able to get a lot of customers on, but none of them were actually doing any sales on their websites. And even the low fees that we were charging became an overhead for them because they didn't know how to do any digital sales, right? So within the first couple of years, we kind of realized that one is in the SME sector, there were a lot of challenges with inventory, content, and just focus on digital as a channel. And that was kind of the first pivot where we started working with larger companies. There, our first large customer was Haldiram's, and when we started working with Haldiram's, and the first Diwali with Haldiram's is when we first felt like we are doing something valuable. And so that was the first, working with a certain size of company. And today we work with mostly, larger enterprises. The second big learning for us was that just building the website and getting brands to go online was a very small part of the journey. The bigger part of the journey was to grow them and to make significant inroads into making this a contributor to their overall growth, right? So the second turn that we took is not just getting many people online, but figuring out how these people who are going online would grow. And that involved us, initially it started with digital marketing, it started with analytics, etc. But all those learnings today have come together into our growth platform, which is able to very predictably drive growth for brands.
What is your vision, Mangesh? Ultimately, what you want to build out of shop, out of your venture?
Yeah, so we believe that about 30% to even maybe as high as 50% of e-commerce will happen directly on the brand websites, and we are basing this on the fact that that is what most of our customers end up at, after 2 to 3 years of dedicated focus and effort. So if you look at the general size, and if you look at India as a market where e-commerce is slated to be about 200 billion, the brand website business could be anywhere between 60 and 100 billion based on what we think, right? Making that journey happen for individual brands, making sure that D2C lives up to that promise is the journey that we are on, right? And we want to make sure that our platform is able to get a majority of those transactions happening on the Shoptimize platform.
Mangesh, you did business with US enterprises when you were in US, and right now you are doing businesses with Indian enterprises. Uh, what, as per you, would be the core difference between uh, uh, Indian enterprises and US based enterprises when it comes to software selling or B2B enterprise solution selling?
Um, I think we could take an hour talking about the differences between India and US, but when it comes to software and software selection, I think the big difference that I have observed is the ability to allocate value to software from a business standpoint, right? If I'm spending X, how do I get 2X returns out of it for my business? I think that ability is a little bit in question when it comes to India, right? People always look at it as a cost and how can I reduce my cost, but not realizing that, say, I spend 1 lakh rupees on this, I could earn 10 lakhs in the next 6 months, right? And how to do that, making that journey happen. I think that's the gap, and that is something that if we can fix software, India can be a big market for software as well. But that's at least what I see as the biggest gap.
Okay, interesting. Um, can you tell us what are the different challenges you had to face along the way while building and growing this venture?
Yeah, absolutely. So first thing is, it's always about being able to raise funds and build a strong team, right? I think if you're able to raise sufficient funds and you're able to get a set of great people to work with you, there's very little that a CEO needs to do after that, right? Of course, you need to keep everybody on track and vision and all of that. So those two continue to be, I think, the biggest challenges for any founder, including me, right? The ability to raise capital and the ability to build a very strong team. I think those are the two biggest challenges. For me, having worked in several customer-facing roles, I think driving customer engagement or sales and all of that was not that big a challenge because I had a lot of experience doing it. I think it was more important for me to figure out how to raise capital and how to attract a strong team. I think those were my two biggest challenges.
And how did you solve it, especially when it comes to hiring quality people? How do what is the process you follow when you go for hiring?
So most of our hires have been through references. So people we have worked with, or our investors have worked with, or people that we know are solving a certain problem and who we've met professionally, things like that, right? So almost all our recruiting was through contacts and connects in the beginning, and continues to be so even now for key roles, right? Now, when you do that, you are limited by your circle, right? You're not able to really go out and get people who you know nothing about, but who could be great for you. So I think the first thing that we did is, of course, made sure that our circle was wider, that we got a lot more people that we were connected to, that who could bring us a lot of talent, right? Or at least introduce us to potential talent for the company. So I think the biggest thing that we did for talent was to make sure that we had a wider reach. And the second big challenge comes where really good people want to work for really good companies. They don't want to work for also ran kind of companies, right? So how do you make sure that they see the same vision as you do? How are they excited about the journey you're on and the goal that you've set? I think that's the next challenge, and we had to make sure that we did a very good job of explaining what we're doing and why this is a great idea and why they should dedicate a good part of their lives to this company, right? So those are the two things that we did well, I believe.
Uh, Mangesh, imagine that you have went through all checks and you have hired someone, but you find out that the person is not a good fit for the company. What would you do about it?
So it happens, when sometimes everything looks right when you get started in terms of their experience, background, etc. And when they start working with you, things don't work. So I think it's very important to, number one, have a good feedback mechanism for that person to say what is not working, what is working, and to try to figure out ways that you can jointly make things work. Right. The idea is you brought in somebody with a certain goal, and if it is not happening, then why is it not happening? And to make that a collaborative effort and to give all sorts of support that they need to do well in their job, right? I think that's the first first thing that we've done in such situations. Sometimes even after that, you realize that it's not right, and then I think it's in the best interest of both the company and the individual that we figure out a way to kind of part ways, because then otherwise it's not right even for them to be spending a lot of time here and being ineffective and really hurting their future career growth as well.
Okay. Uh, how can you give us some insights about how do you manage investors on board while raising funds, after raising funds? What are the different things one should know before raising funds?
Yeah, so actually, that's an area where I still believe that I have a lot to learn, and I'm still continuing to learn. So please don't take anything I say as an expert advice. I'm still quite a novice when it comes to handling investors, because my first company was bootstrapped. We didn't raise any money. We ran it, based on the funds the company generated. It's only in Shoptimize that I've had to do that, right? So with that disclaimer, a few things that are important, when you're raising capital. One is to make sure that the people that you raise capital from know the journey you're on and kind of sign up for that journey, right? And if you're a first-time entrepreneur, it's best not to raise from first-time investors, because they don't know the risks involved of doing this. They don't know what could go well, what could not go well, right? So that is something that you should look for seasoned investors who have done this, who understand the risk that they're taking, and who also know how to help you in your journey, right? Because your investors are your biggest brand ambassadors, and they're all in the right places, talking to the right people. So you need to make sure that you bring on people that can help you grow as a company, right? Having said that, you need money to run a company, and if you have an investor who's willing to give you money, um, and is somebody that you are unsure of, and we've been in this situation a few times in the past. It is best not to raise that capital. Imagine that it didn't go through, right, for whatever reason, and it does set you back for a bit. But I think on the long term journey and your long term goal, and if you look at enterprises spanning over several years and decades, I think those become very small setbacks in the long run. So pick people you're comfortable with, pick people who have experience doing this kind of investing, and pick people who believe in the journey and the goal that you have set.
Okay. Mangesh, can you tell us about one tough decision or choice you had to make where both sides looked equally good or bad?
Yeah, so there was a time early in our journey where we we had a large potential investment that could come in, and this was I mean, it would have been about 2x of the funds that we had raised up to that date, and it would really set us on a path where we didn't have to worry about money for a good 1 or 2 years at least. But during those discussions with that particular investor, at least I believe that that person was not going to be the right person for us in the long run. And bringing that person on would have really made it difficult for us, put on a lot of stress, etc. And we finally decided to not go ahead with that. I think that at that point, the kind of money that it would have brought in to us at that stage, we would have been able to do a lot as a company. But then again, I don't know where we would be 3 years, 4 years down the line. So it was a tough call. It was very hard to make that call because raising capital seemed like the primary thing to do. But nevertheless, we made that, and in hindsight, it's worked out well for us.
Okay. Mangesh, what is the meaning of entrepreneurship to you? Or in other words, how would you define the term entrepreneurship?
Yeah, so there's several definitions that we've heard. There's one that I recently heard, again from the CEO of Unilever, who's an alumni of our college. So there are various ways to kind of look at this. I think if I was to think about how do I define entrepreneurship, I think it is primarily resourcefulness, right? It's the ability to make things happen with very little at your disposal. And I think people who can do that are entrepreneurs. And it's not like you have to start a company to do it. You could be an entrepreneur within the company that you're working at. But where you're able to bring returns disproportionate to the resources available to you, I think that makes you an entrepreneur.
Mangesh, you would have met entrepreneurs from across the globe. What, as per you, makes Indian entrepreneurs different from the rest of the world?
So Indian entrepreneurs, what I really there are two things, right? One is a lot of them are very very capable to start off with, right? They've done great things already, either where they've studied or where they have worked, things like that. So the starting point itself, I believe, they're very smart, right? So that's and I'm talking about averages, right? You get way smarter people somewhere else and all of that, but I believe all of them are very smart. The other thing that I see is very high levels of energy. The amount that they're willing to put in and willing to sacrifice to actually make their their companies work is very different. So if you look at Europe or even for that matter US, there's work, and then they still continue to do their hobbies or their family time and all of that. Whereas Indian entrepreneurs are willing to kind of let everything go for that one enterprise that they are after. So high levels of energy, high level of commitment. The only thing that I see that we as an entrepreneur community need to learn a little bit more is that entrepreneurship is not like a 2 3 year 4 year stint where you suddenly catapult in life, right? You go from A to B or F or J or whatever it is. I think it's important to understand that you need to make progress. You need to make consistent progress, and you need to work on yourself as an entrepreneur as well, where you are finding your flaws and trying to fix them. I think, and these things take time, right? So 1 in 100 might luck out and really grow very fast, very quickly. But there are, those 8 or 9 others that work very hard for a very long time to get to that point. And for some reason, that's not what most of the entrepreneurs want to emulate. They'd rather do the quick 100-meter dashes than the marathons.
Speaking of flaws and failures, can you tell us some of the failures you have gone through as an entrepreneur?
Yeah, so several, right? So one is, of course, very often you don't pick the right people because being able to identify the right people for the right job, I think, is a thing that I'm still continuing to get better at. So significant failures in the beginning where I believed in a certain person to do a certain role, but that didn't happen for various reasons, right? So that's one on the team side. The second, I would say, big failure for us is, or in the past has been, also being able to set the right expectations with your investors. Very often, you believe you're on a very fast growth trajectory, whereas the market is not, and closing that loop out, saying this is what we are actually seeing, this is what I think will happen. I know we said we will go from 10 to 100 in 1 year, but you know what, it might take 3 years. When I look back, I think those are the biggest failures that I think I had as an entrepreneur, and a lot of learning from those.
Okay. Mangesh, here is my last question to you. Can you tell us what are the interesting lessons you have learned as an entrepreneur along the way, which can shorten the learning curve of other entrepreneurs who are listening to us right now?
Um, so one is, basically when you're starting a company, I think you need to be really passionate about the problem you're solving. Very often you're likely to pick up a problem because it's getting funded, or you pick up a problem because you have some experience in that problem, which is all great. But you also need to pick up things that you're really excited about solving, right? Because that is what keeps you going, for a long time. If you're able to really gain a lot of joy out of solving a particular problem, because other things may happen, may not happen, may take its own time. But I believe that's a big driver, you know for entrepreneurs. So very often I see great people applying themselves to problems that they are not really passionate about, and that kind of um, fizzles out over time. That's one. Second is surround yourself with good people, right? Good people who can give you positive inputs and who work towards making you better. Nobody is perfect, and this is a long journey. So make sure that you have the right set of people around you, right from friends, family, to investors, advisors, and employees. I think these two things, if you do, you will be able to fast track yourself significantly on this journey.
Well, on this note, I would say I'm done with the questions, and I would also say that it was a great pleasure to host you here at ELI. Thanks for your time, Mangesh, and our best wishes for Optimize.
Thank you so much, Priya. Very nice talking to you, and good luck to everybody out there who's trying to make a difference in this world. Thank you. Thank you so much.